Welcome back to the Two Dudes, Three Legs podcast. I'm Zach, your host. We got Abe filling in for Tony today. So today we're sitting down with Mark Tosoni, and here's his book, The Closer's Five. You got like 5 or 10 books now. You got a bunch, but this is one of them. And I want to give a little story on Mark. So Mark made his millions in his early 20s, lost it all, gained it all back. Now he runs a 9-figure-a-year solar company. He owns over 250 pieces of real estate. And for me personally, we met Mark about 2 years ago. And he also coaches. And he's coached not only me. When I did my first coaching call with him, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And then now here we are 2 years later. He coaches half of my sales team. We talk on a weekly basis. This is our second podcast we've done. We've done live trainings with him. He coaches basically everyone that's close to me. And he's completely changed my life, the way I look at business, the way I teach, the way I sell, everything. And the biggest thing I want to say about it is the inner game. What Mark does better than any other human being I've ever met is he has a special gift where he knows what you're thinking before you think it, and he knows how to fix all the inner shit wrong with you without you even saying it to him. So Mark, he's a business builder, but to me, he's the best sales trainer I've ever met. So thanks, Mark, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you guys.
Oh, you fucking with me things.
Guys are looking sharp.
Zach Dingee,
Tony
Two
Capoletti.
Dudes, Three Legs podcast, where we share business tips, interview experts,
And travel the world.
This week on Two Dudes, Three Legs.
In today's world, we were just talking about this before, talking about sales trainers, which I would say is your something that I work with you the most on.
Yep.
What do you think is the biggest issue with sales trainers today? Like, what do you think is the missing part, and why do you think so many people aren't good at it?
I think today you've got social media, and because of social media, sales training is becoming a much bigger thing. And so sales trainers are selling sales training. And my perspective on it is that it needs to be an integrated approach. And what I mean by integrated is if you don't address a salesperson's past and deal with what was in their past, eventually their past will take them out. And that might be a year from now, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I've watched millionaire after millionaire coming up with me, and people come up and lose it. And now people could say, well, they're stupid, which is a pretty, non-compassionate point of view, because every one of us has a past. And in every one of us in our past is trauma in some way, shape, or form. And I don't mean that you were a victim of a drive-by shooting or that your parents beat the hell out of you. It doesn't have to be like that. We're talking about a nervous system. And when you're talking about your nervous system, it has one job, and that job is to protect you. And to protect you is sort of the antithesis of getting rich. If your nervous system and unconscious mind perceives that getting rich and wealthy is not safe, you are going to have a battle, an internal battle like you've never ever had. And so what ends up happening is sometimes we get this sales training, we go out there and we crush it for a minute, maybe even a year, 2 years, whatever the case, but at some point there'll be a contraction, usually. And so I love sales training. I'm not dogging it, I do it. I sales train people all the time. But what I see that's really needed is an integrated approach with it.
So you've coined the term inner game versus outer game, which people may not know, but inner game is basically the mental, the central nervous system, everything you're talking about, your past trauma, your past beliefs. Outer game is the skill set, what to say at a door, what to say in a house, what percentage to be successful, to be rich, what percentage needs to be inner game, what percentage needs to be outer game.
Great question. So it's a very interesting question too, because your outer game can actually rewire your inner game. So for example, you could just do and do and do and do and do, hit the doors. Eventually you'll rewire yourself. But my position on it is this: most people won't do that. So when you're building sales teams, if you're a builder of a sales team, you can't just build a sales team for the top 1%. So you're trying to take people who have never been to the top 1% to the top 1%. You're trying to turn them into superstars. So in the early stages of the game, I would say it would probably be like more 80% skill, 20% internal. And eventually that internal is going to rear itself. And it usually happens very quickly. Over time, that number can really change. And if you talk to like really successful people, they're probably 80, 90 or more internal stuff versus the skill set once you get your skill set down.
Yep.
So if you're brand new and listening to this, I would say train skill, but do not neglect your belief system, your identity, which these are other conversations we can get into, and ultimately your vibration. Your belief system and your identity set up your vibration. So it kind of gets into a little bit of a law of attraction thing, like what you're attracting, what you're repelling. Give you an example of that. Let's just say, and here's a huge problem in sales, massive problem. Let's just say that you were hurt by someone in your life when you were younger. You don't trust people. So how the hell are you going to attract people? You don't get rich without people. Coach Michael Burt, he says you don't need more money, you just need more people, right? How are you going to get rich and wealthy without people? You need people. So if you are afraid of people, which in my case, I was brought up around mafia people, okay? I saw things when I was a kid. I saw people getting beat up. So my worldview was, you can get killed in this world, right? So I had worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. I got to this point, I finally became a millionaire. I was like a multi-millionaire at the time, but nothing, I was having such a hard time bringing it to the next level, right? All I did was go within, got some coaching, and I realized something. I was afraid of people. So I changed my belief system around people. Boom, my net worth blew up. Not one additional skill, just shifted my belief system. And my net worth blew up, and it continues to grow every year, whether I do anything or not.
Because also, I feel like in today's world, because of our phones and technology, the younger generation, our generation, is all against, like, we're not social anymore. We want to stay in the house. We don't want to go out and go with people, you know?
Yep.
So that's crazy because that's an issue, a major issue.
And if you've got trauma in the past with people, certainly it is a person who did something to hurt you. And again, it doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world. It could be you were in the 3rd grade and you liked some girl and, you know, everybody made fun of you because you kissed her on the cheek. It could be an embarrassing moment. It could be anything, but at that point, your nervous system contracts to protect you. And so now you've got somebody who can hide behind the social media so they don't got to get out there and do the activities. So when I think of sales training, inner game, outer game, I want to build it for the masses to help people who would have never, ever been able to succeed. But I'm telling you right now, the sales training world, all their testimonials are with superstars. Let's talk about show me a loser who came from nothing, who had nothing and became something. That's the testimonial I want to hear.
Yep.
And if somebody is producing those sort of people, God bless, that trainer is doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done because I had to do that from necessity. Because I'm not a quote unquote sales trainer, although I'm becoming a trainer now, but I was a business guy building my own companies. I did that out of necessity. I had to take what I had and get them to be as successful as I could. And I still do that to this day. So
Mark, when you were younger, were you raised in a household of entrepreneurs and business people, or were you raised in a home of regular 9-to-5 parents?
Yes. So my actual household was, I'm Italian American. So my father's family, it was all about English and education. So my father went on to get his PhD. He had a state job. My mother was also college educated, had a state job. So neither of them was an entrepreneur. My father was risk averse. He was the Italian guy who would save the money in the cigar box and put it under the bed. That was my father, right? No investing. So when I started investing, I would make my father nervous. He would get nervous. So I think I was trying to be different than him by becoming an investor. But that said, the greater community that I was a part of, I had family members and friends who were all business owners. So there were a lot of entrepreneurs around me. And so my parents didn't realize that I was entrepreneurial. I started selling stuff, stealing things and selling it in, third grade, fourth grade, just trying to hustle and make money, right? And then by age 19, selling cars and, sell. And that's how I basically built my career. But I really, my parents were very average means, depression values, money doesn't grow on trees. Like, we never had a lot,
Who was your biggest idol when you were young? And are they still an idol of yours?
It's a great question because it's a really great question because my father came out of the south end of Springfield, Massachusetts, which was a all Italian neighborhood, right? His next door neighbor was Nick Bonaconti. Nick Bonaconti is a Hall of Fame football player who played on the Dolphins in the 70s when they went undefeated with Don Shula. So I always had Nick Bonaconti as a guy who got out of the neighborhood and became mega successful. My father also, although he never encouraged me entrepreneurially, he always wanted me in college, formal education. I adopted his love for education. I just didn't do it formally. But what he would always do is he would always connect me to his friends because he had entrepreneurial friends and he had people who were into different things and he would connect me to these guys. So I started to, get this vision that I could start to make money as well. And so that was kind of my upbringing. And then the other part of that was that we were around a lot of, organized crime people. And
Which is the best business in the world.
and they always had, money, cars, restaurants. And so we were eating in these restaurants. We were with them. I played hockey with them. I grew up with them. So that sort of fosters an entrepreneurial mindset as well. Some of those guys are the best entrepreneurs you will ever find, but they take it down the wrong road. If they ever took it down the right road, it would be a really good thing because a lot of them are unbelievable entrepreneurs. So I was raised around a lot of them as well. So I think that's kind of where I got my mindset.
Yeah. I want to go back for a second because I meant to ask you before and I forgot. Do you believe, so we talk about inner game. Do you believe, actually let me phrase this a different way. In today's world, there's a lot of extremes. People that start focusing on inner game, all of a sudden they'll have a 4-hour morning routine where they got to meditate, they got to go to the gym, they got to do an ice bath, they got to journal, they have to eat their greens, they have to drink their smoothie, then they got to take their pills, then they got to go back, then they got to shower, like crazy stuff. Do you have a morning routine? Do you believe in morning routines? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I totally believe in them.
Okay.
But again, I think that's being driven by social media because so-and-so says something, that must be the way it is. And my belief, just like with diet, there are different body types. So I'm working through certain things health-wise. Other people are working through things. So my diet might be different. Maybe I thrive more on meat. Someone thrives more on vegetarian. So when it comes to like morning routines, I'm big on getting set up in the morning, getting my mindset set up, but I am not radical about it at all.
So you're not cold plunging, you're not sauna in?
No,
nothing
not
like that?
at the moment.
No?
I will be cold plunging soon. That's something I'm going to be doing. But again, in the morning, I just like to get my day going. One thing I don't like to do, well, let me say this. I don't get up at 5 in the morning. I get up when my body gets up. That's one thing. Now I know, all the gurus are like, you got to get up early, right? I get up when my body gets up. And I found a way to become successful. So I know that works, right? Could I be more successful maybe if I did something different? I follow my body's rhythms. That's what I try to do. But I'm big on getting my mind right in the morning. I don't like to get up and run. I like to get up and connect to spirit, connect to myself, study, journal, read, meditate. And I do that every day, but I don't do it radically. It might be, 30 minutes, maybe, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, sometimes an hour. Will I cold plunge in the morning? I'll probably be the guy who cold plunges in the evening, unless Gary Brecka tells me that's bad for me. Then I'll go to the morning.
Okay, Gary Brecka, that's the man right there.
Yeah.
I got a hot take on the morning routine stuff. I feel like it's almost what you said before in the beginning. You got to do the 80% skill work and 20% inner game. It's the same with like people will not be successful in life. Try to start with the morning routine stuff, ice bath, sauna, whatever it is, and think that's going to make them successful. When in reality, the people that are going to be successful are already going to be successful because they want it and they're going to go get the skills. And then later on, you're like, damn, I'm stressed all the time. My life is shitty. Maybe I should try like a morning routine.
Right.
Maybe I should take an ice bath and relax in the morning, you know? So I think it's got to be the other way around, where a lot of today's world is like, these people don't even do anything. They work at a regular job and they're waking up at 4 a.m., gym, ice bath, all these crazy things to get ready for their day. To not.
Again, my thinking on it is if somebody's biorhythms are set like that and they get up early, go for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I think it's a very individualized thing. And I don't think it's a one size fits all. And I think that's the problem with social media and influencers. They always make it, this is the way, this is the religion, follow it this way, and it works. It doesn't always work for everybody. And I used to be like that. I think if I found something that worked for me, you automatically assume it's going to work for everybody. But today I know better than that. You know?
So Mark, you are a partner in a solar company.
Yep.
And you invest heavily in real estate.
Yep.
And I'm one of your students in your coaching, and that's why I value your coaching so much, because I'm a partner in a solar company and I'm investing in real estate, right? So have you ever felt doubtful of your ability to succeed in the solar industry despite your experience in other industries? And if you have, how did you deal with your self-doubt?
Yeah. So initially, I got into solar and knew nothing about it, but I knew a lot about sales and I knew a lot about business. I knew a lot about recruiting. I knew a lot about training and developing people. So I had that advantage. So when I went into it, just like when I started in the alarm business, which was years before, I had come off of a venture with a mentor. And so I had developed a supreme confidence. He had sent me into various markets, Philadelphia, Framingham, Massachusetts, parts of Connecticut, and I would just go in, start an office, recruit everybody, the front, the back, the side, the whole thing. So I had developed this confidence. Where the confidence really came from was in the house, turning those impossible deals that nobody could sell into deals. And by doing that, I just developed this belief system that I can always find a way to win. But I also want to tell you, and this is interesting because I don't believe all the influencers out there, and I'm not picking a fight with any of them, but I like to hear about people's vulnerabilities. And for somebody who comes across like you're just, 1,500 on the testosterone scale, if that's a thing, and you're invincible, and nothing ever happens to you, and you never have problems, I just think that's complete bullshit. I just think it's just bullshit. I just don't believe it. And so, yeah, I do have self-doubt, and I do deal with that from time to time. 2023 was a trying year for us in business. We went through some stuff. We went through some stuff with a partner that was very, very difficult, very complicated. I'm in a partnership, so now what you have is what I call a collective consciousness or a collective mind, almost like a mastermind, right? And you guys will experience this as you do partnerships and work with people. It's no longer just your belief system. Now you're melding your belief system with theirs, with their identity, with their vibration. And, even the Bible talks about being unequally yoked, right? People who are unequally yoked don't do well together. So when people are equally yoked, we do well together. So we went through something in our partnership this year, which was really difficult. And it was most difficult on me. And the reason it was most difficult on me is because I was the one partner that didn't need to be there. I didn't need the money. So I could have walked away from this and said, see you guys, I'm not going through this bullshit and this struggle. But we had 200 employees. Bidenomics kicked in, interest rates went up. Now you got to start making changes in the company. Salespeople would quit, we'd bring new ones in. People would quit, other people trying to poach your people. There was problems going on in the partnership, and the problems going on in the partnership were sabotage. So now we're dealing with a collective sabotage issue. Most people, they don't ever even talk about that, sabotage. What is this sabotage thing? I was going through it in my business. I talk about it all the time, and it's for freaking real. It's a real thing. When something contracts, a business is a living entity, okay? It's as living of an entity as you. And if you ever lose one, you'll know that because it's like losing a child, but it's an entity. And so our entity started to contract. And so when I see contraction, I immediately go sabotage. What's going on? Somebody's nervous system is not safe. So the collective of us in the group, we're not doing the work. So I went to the partners and said, listen, I said, you guys either start doing the inner game work. You don't have to do it with me. I'll give you this coach, this, give them all the coaches, right? Well, out of the partnership, one of the partners didn't want to do the work. And so eventually a very, very hard decision had to be made, and we had to let that guy go. And it was the hardest business decision of my career. He was the partner who brought it together. He was the partner who called me on the phone and said, I want you to look at this deal and get into solar. That was the partner.
Wow.
And I love him dearly as a friend, but he didn't want to go to the next level with the other partners. And here's the point. We went from 5 employees to 200. We went from sales of 800,000 to we've done over $250 million at this point. You know what happens when that happens? There's more complexity. So when you have more complexity, guess what? You need a tighter inner game. What necessitates, listen, if I were the guy at the toll collecting your 50 cents or 75 cents and I'm making 40 grand a year, I don't have to do one bit inner game work as long as I live because I'm just collecting the 50 cents or the dollar or whatever it is, right? Today we got the fast passes, but you know what I'm saying, right? Or, in no disrespect, if somebody works at the post office or whatever, or, you know, a clerk, a simple job where you don't have to think that much, no need for inner game. But when you go from 5 employees to 200, you just raise your level of complexity, and that's what we did. So every time you set a new goal and hit a new goal, guess what? Your nervous system is coming along for the ride. And so your nervous system can get triggered and not feel safe. And that's what was happening to us as a collective. And so I finally went to the partners and said, listen, inner game work or I'm gone. I'm not going through this shit. I know what's happening. And by the way, I was being coached. Okay, so I was the one partner who's got a $50,000 coach I'm working with. I'm not just coming up with this stuff myself. I seek wise counsel. So I had the wise counsel. I go to the partners and said, listen, inner game or I'm out. They said inner game. One said, screw the inner game, it's bullshit. And that one who said bullshit, we said, listen, we got to let you go. And that's where we are today. And so now, since that happened, since we let that partner go, we immediately brought in a new president of sales. Things turned around like that, and we're kicking it again. Just like that.
You just answered 3 different questions I was going to ask.
Literally. Next 2 of us.
That was great.
Answer me this to try to rephrase the question in your answer. What are like the top 3 red flags of a potential partnership that you could call out?
So top 3 red flags in a partnership. That's a great question. I think that in life, initially, you got to get a little bit of an ass whooping. And so you're going to make some mistakes. And that's how we learn, right? So the first thing I want to say about that is, you got to remember, I'm in my 50s now, so I've been around people, so I have a different perspective on it. But when I was your guys' age, I would have more readily partnered with people who I shouldn't have back at your age. Now, when I say shouldn't have is relative because I believe the universe is for you. And I don't believe things happen to you. I believe they happen for you if you're willing to do the work and look in the mirror based on what happened in that partnership. So the first thing I would say is to understand that experience is the master teacher. The second thing I would look at, and this might sound totally bizarre to you, but look at people who cheat on their spouses.
I knew you were going to say
And
that.
if they cheat, I'm telling you they're going to cheat you. So you know that going into it, right? So I wouldn't partner with somebody today who knowingly cheated. And then the third thing today that I would look at, more than the skill, I can build skill. I'm looking at desire and growth. Does that person want to grow? So in my business partnership now, in my real estate partnership, I got the most amazing partner. I could never do what I've done without him. He's amazing. And this guy we come from the same place. We both come right out of Springfield. He's just an amazing guy who continues to grow. And he's a guy, he doesn't grow the way I grow. He grows more through doing. He's more of a doer and he grows that way, but he's blossomed. He went from state cop to multimillionaire. He probably wouldn't even want me saying this on camera. he'd probably be pissed at me. But if you've seen his house, you can't deny it. It's just, it's undeniable who he's become, you know? You go into his garage, it looks like a episode of Cribs now, you know? You could take a camera in there. But so that's what I would say. Don't try to avoid experience and be okay with that, but get the freaking lesson out of it. I have a quote in one of my books. If you don't get the lesson, L-E-S-S-O-N, you will in fact lessen, L-E-S-S-E-N. So you always want to get the lesson out of everything that you do. And then the second thing is to make sure that they want to grow with you. And then the third thing, I forgot what I even said. There was
Third thing was grow. Second was
equally yoked.
no.
What did I say?
Cheating.
Cheating. And then,
Wife
there you go.
cheaters.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say too. When I was 19 years old, I don't know if you even knew this. When I was 19 years old, actually I might have been even been 18. Anyway, when I was 19 years old, I opened up Master Networks, which was like a regional partnership. It's like you know what BNI is?
Yeah.
You've heard of that?
Yep.
I was the regional partner for the state of Connecticut. I had a partner. Within the first 2 weeks of that partnership, it fell apart. I lost 45 grand. Business went down, and I was 19 years old, and my partner was 50-something years old.
Wow.
And then from that, though, from that relationship with that guy who, even though I lost that business, he got me into solar, and now I've made what I've made in solar.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, it was a partnership that went bad. I got screwed over. I lost a bunch of money, but it's made me hundreds of thousands of dollars now, you know? So.
And I don't want to come across as all self-righteous either, you know, because believe me, you know, I've done my share of shit in life. I drank, I cheated, I've done all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, when I was younger, I would do it. When I stopped drinking, I haven't really done much bad after that, but that was a catalyst for me. But, you know, it's not what you did, it's who you're becoming. And so if you're involved with people who are, you know, growth oriented, they're spiritually minded, they're capable of looking at themselves, you've got great partners. And if they're hungry and they got desire, what I love about all my partners the most, which is nothing but a reflection of me, because the people you attract into your life are a complete reflection of you. My partners are freaking hungry. They're starving. They're constantly starving. We could do millions and everybody is still hungry. We're still starving. And that's another thing, you know, depending on what you want to build in and develop and grow, you know?
Yeah, what you just said too before is it was so hard for you this year because you have all this real estate that makes you all this money and cash flow, and you got to deal with the BS of owning a company still, you know? And it's like.
And I'm literally saying to myself, I don't have to deal with any of this.
Yeah.
I can just walk away from all of this. And
so why do you still do it?
I did it for the growth. I did it for the growth, and I call that enlightened greed. I did it for the growth. I'm very selfish when it comes to growth. And I also did it because I couldn't walk away from the people. So those were the two things for me.
Dude, that
to healing that thyroid.
Speaking on stage is draining.
Yeah.
When we've been running the conferences, and I've been like running the whole conference lately, dude. Our conference is 6 hours long. I feel like I just ran a Spartan race at the end of speaking on stage.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's hard on the body.
Crazy.
And the reason is because of the energy. You've got to be able to protect your energy, because when you're in front of a group, the whole group is literally, they're siphoning your energy from you. Mm-hmm. So you got to have this bubble around you to be able to push back on that expectation they have of you. That's a thing.
That's always been a goal of mine.
It's a real thing.
Talk on a stage in front of people and share my life experience and business experience to help them grow. Something similar to what you do, you know. But I've put that on the back burner to gain my life experience first. Yeah. And then I could really speak outward with real value, you know, from experience.
And that's what I did. You know, I could have been speaking years ago, but I didn't feel right. I felt like you had to be worth 10 million or more.
I talk about it all the time.
I shouldn't even be like
that's what I talk
talking
about.
Shit, you know?
Right.
That's it. That was just me. That's how I felt. And, you know, so I stayed true to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. I agree.
And it's funny because like I've been saying that to Bryce too, because we're half getting into like, I'm starting to try and coach and speaking to these things. And I feel like a fraud half the time because I'm not all the way, I'm not in the millions where it's like, I really have things to
What
share.
I would say to you though, my coaching to you on that would be a little bit different because you're so young. So you're in the process and you're building a sales team, number one. Number two, you're on page 4, 5, 6, or 7. Guys like Fitzy, even my guys are not on your page. They're back on page 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So you're farther ahead than most of them. but you're not where Patrick Bet David is, and I'm not where Patrick Bet David is, right? So you got to be careful. Social media creates a lot of comparison, and it's that in itself can become a disorder. Oh, it is to me. Yes. So for me, it had a lot to do with that. Really, I'm a business builder, man. That's who I am at my core, more than a coach. The coaching I did out of necessity, and I learned that I love it. But what I don't love about it is that I like making money, and you make money in business. Now, I could make money in coaching, but now I got to turn the thing I love into something that maybe I don't love so much, right? Because it becomes a business. So for me, I always wanted my business shit to be handled. So what I'm doing over here, not that I wouldn't charge, but I don't have to. You know, it's all optional what I do with it. And that was just kind of how I structured it. I'm not saying that's right. But, you know, and there is a thing with the coaching where people do need to pay or they won't appreciate it. You can't give it away for free.
100%.
They do have to pay.
99% of people.
So you're helping them to
good.
invest in themselves, you know?
So this has been a big trend all over. Now I've been seeing a lot of stuff about, I don't know if you have, the 4-day work week. Yeah. Have you seen that? What do you think? What are your thoughts on a 4-day work week?
I think in order to become successful, you know, like where I come from, you got to work, man. It just takes time. And I think that in today's world, we live in a different world. So there are ways to make money online, and those are available, but I don't necessarily subscribe to it. I'm going to tell you why. Because I believe the first thing, if you're getting in a business, I think the first thing you should learn to do is find a repeatable way to make money. Mm-hmm. Whatever that is. I think that's first and foremost. Once you learn a repeatable way to make money, then from there you move to the next step, which would be to become investor. And what I see today is these people, they're in crypto. Are you making money or are you investing? Like, what the frick are you doing? Like, where are you at? And then people are like, well, I made all this money. God bless. Just because you made it doesn't mean you're going to keep it. Because I'm not about making it and losing it. I'm about making it and growing it. So if you made money in crypto, but you don't have the skill of investing, maybe you have a skill of investing in crypto. Maybe you have that skill, right? But how are you going to grow that money? There's got to be a way to grow the money. So I just think that takes time. And so what I think that's tapping into is people's sort of, I don't know, lazy switch. And I think if you like what you do and you enjoy what you do and you love what you do, you're going to want to do it. And so I don't know. I guess some people just want to work, 3 hours a day or whatever. But for me, that just wasn't a reality.
That's that Florida lifestyle. 3 hours a day, the other 6 hours in a boat.
It just wasn't a thing. And I don't want to sit here and say, oh, that's bullshit, because I'm sure there's somebody out there who's doing 3 hours a day and that's working for them. Again, I think you got to look at yourself as an individual. This I will tell you. How will you know a 4-hour work day is not for you? Because you're freaking broke. If you're broke, it ain't for you. You need to go to work. You need to maybe even get a job to start, as much as I hate to say that. You've got to get a base down, a foundation down, where you're making more money than you're spending. That's first and foremost. My daughter came out of Rollins College over here in Winter Park. It's an unbelievable college. Unbelievable. She says, Dad, I want to invest in real estate like you. I said, why don't you start learning how to make money? Just make money. Get that skill down, learning to make money. She just turned 30, right? She's making a ton of money selling real estate. And her and me now own our first mobile home park together. She's made her first investment. And she's managing it and learning how to do that. She also owned a business in China. She was an international student with Rollins College, and she bought a hummus company in China. So she was learning the skill of making money. She was learning how to hustle. So now she gets out of that. She's selling real estate. She's doing great. She's already way beyond 6 figures, and she's developing that skill. Now she's got a problem. The problem is she's got money. What are you going to do with the money?
Big problem.
Invest it, right? So that's just how I see it. But shit, I'm 57 years old, so I'm probably obsolete.
It's unique. Like there's like the two sides of stories, which are things take time. You got to get in a business. You got to stay for 5, 10, 15 years, But then in today's world, it's like, dude, you start a business, 3 years later, the business is gone. The market's done for that business.
Yep.
You open up some kind of new tech trend or something, and within 6 months, you make $100 million, and then your business goes to bankrupt. It's like, the world today is such a unique way, and you have to be able to find something good and stick with it, long enough to get in the trend and to make the money on it, and then know when it's maybe too late.
Let's use that example for a minute. So maybe it's a SaaS company, right?
Yep.
But in a SaaS company, there's certain fundamentals. There's certain ways that gets sold. There's certain way the business is run. There's a certain infrastructure. Master that structure. You're gonna master that in 4 hours a day? Unless you're like some super genius, like it's gonna take time for you to learn how to master that structure. Once you learn to master that structure, if that structure goes away, you could just rinse and repeat with another SaaS company, which is what I've done with in-home sales, right? So we're in in-home sales. So I started in alarm systems. I learned how to sell, I learned how to recruit, learned how to train, learned how to build the company, learned how to run the company, motivate, all that stuff, right? Alarm business went away. I knew nothing about solar. We're one of the big players on the block in solar, and I knew nothing about it. I still know nothing about it. I'm the one partner, I don't know anything about kilowatts or any of this stuff.
Like?
Right?
John?
Yeah,
Intentionally, I don't focus on that. I have a partner who knows all about it. God bless him. Learn everything you can about solar and know about it. What I learn about is people, how to master building the business, the people. Now it's the P&L. So now I'm into the P&L and, making sure the numbers and our spending and controls and this and that. So I don't know. Can you pull that off in 4 hours a day? I don't know.
The first book I ever wrote when I was 17, and it clicked for me that you can make money in other ways in high school, was the 4 Hour Work Week. Do you know the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss? No? It's a big book, but I read it and I'm like, oh my God, you can make money doing nothing. And I started like 4 businesses, like online shit, like selling razors and drop shipping companies, all this stupid stuff. And I'm like, all right, you can't actually make money like this, but I get his gist. Like you can start something, delegate, delegate, and then you're at the top of the ladder and you don't need to work because the business can run without you.
And I totally agree with that concept, but here's the problem. You don't delegate anything until you learn to master yourself.
Correct.
Right.
And so that takes time. And you've got a past, and you're carrying your past, and you've got a nervous system, and you're carrying your nervous system, and it's going to get triggered, and this and that, and you've got to learn a skill set, and like this stuff just takes time.
This is I 110%.
That to me is the truth. The rest of it is just like, playing on people's emotions, like, wow, you can get rich doing nothing. I don't believe that's reality. I believe the universe is about exchange of value, and so if you have a faster way to exchange value, God bless. If you have a faster way to learn it, God bless. If you've got zero trauma in your past, God bless. But if you look at the most successful freaking people, look at a guy like Tony Robbins. You talk about trauma, look at his background.
Crazy.
Right? Crazy background. And I'm friends with Mike Melio. I'm very close friends with Mike Melio to this day. People know his name because he travels with Tony. He tells me Tony Robbins has the most insane work ethic of any human being he's ever met. And so he ain't working 4 hours a day. He's got like 100 and something K1s he gets at the end of the year because he's a part of all these companies.
Crazy.
That ain't happening in 4 hours a day.
Yeah, he's legit.
I think that's the problem with most people is they think that you start a business and it's successful. But I know from experience that when you're starting a business, it starts like this. And you have to take certain actions to get it to step 2. And then now you're in step 2, now you're doing things different than you were in step 1 to get to step 3. And then as you're growing is different phases. And like you said, sometimes in certain phases, you're gonna be the one doing things to master it, to then be able to delegate it to somebody else. Once you're able to delegate it to somebody else, that's free time on your plate that you could use to do other things to grow the company to step 5. You know what I mean? Or step 6.
And I don't think in the real world of business anybody delegates anything. People need to know your level of certainty and mastery, especially employees, or they'll eat you alive. And so you better have a higher level of proficiency than them in all areas.
So true. It just happens.
They will just eat you up and spit you out.
So true.
And so that becomes a thing. I just think how I see it, and this for me was very profound. This was a shifting point for me. And this is my belief system about it. Scarcity is a belief system that people adopt, right? And so if you're rooted in scarcity, you're going to want to get rich quick. And I believe for me, I used to be that guy like you when I was 19 years old. And I remember I first learned about network marketing. I was like, holy shit, what's this?
I did that too.
I did that.
I was like, what is this? I never even heard the term residual income until I was 20 years old, right? And I heard it and I was just like all excited about it. And I thought you could get rich quick. When I stopped trying to get rich quick, and I realized that there is a gestation period to wealth, meaning that it's like having a baby. It takes time, and you've got to let it grow. You've got to let it grow, and everybody's is different. And then you rinse and repeat and do it over again, and that next thing's going to have a gestation period. That there are cycles, there are seasons, instead of just this bullshit that it just, boom, it happens quick and it's over. Imagine like a woman, I want to have my baby in 2 months. And she writes a book, How to Have a Baby in 90 Days, right? It's like, it would just sound like the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, right?
Yeah.
And so I think people who are very rooted in scarcity, oftentimes, at least from my own experience, and I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but I'm just saying, I would invite people to look at, are you coming from a place of scarcity? Or is it that you're listening to a certain person? Is that actually true? I don't know that to be true.
I think that people who are trying to get rich quick are people who put money on a pedestal and they value the money, and that's their purpose for doing whatever it is that they're doing to get rich quick. But the reality is that you need to move with purpose. So when you're moving with purpose, it's got more meaning behind it, and you're doing things with more intention, right? And then you're actually able to create something because of what you're putting into it, right? So I'll take a step back quick, give you a little backstory. My father, right? He's in jail right now. I just visited him for the first time in my entire life. He's always been in and out of jail my entire life. So he has a drug addiction, which is what landed him there, bad behaviors, right? So while I'm there, I'm talking to him. I'm like, listen, look where you're sitting. This is a result of you just moving, lost, running away from whatever it is that you're running away from, not moving with any purpose in any set direction at all, with any end goal. I said, you need to get really clear on what it is that you want out of life, because if you don't, and you don't put something in front of you to work towards, then you're gonna continue to run away from whatever pain you're running from, and you're gonna be lost for the rest of your life. And when you get out of here, you're gonna have the same outcome as you did that got you here, right?
Wow.
So I said, look, I'm building a multi-million-dollar company, and we did it within the first year. And that's because every day I'm grinding toward a specific goal, toward a specific outcome, a better lifestyle, a better version of me. And that's my purpose. I'm moving with intention. And that's why my life is a lot more fruitful than it's ever been, because of moving with purpose.
I like that. I like that a lot. I didn't know that about your father. I like you even more now. That is awesome. That is so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Because I knew when I met you that you were going to become incredibly successful, because I could sense your drive. I didn't sense that 3-hour work month within you.
No, a lot more than 3 hours.
I knew you were willing to grind and willing to do what it takes. And, but speaking into that, let's look at that just for a moment. Like even in your own life, having a father who went through that's got to be very painful for you.
Yeah, of
My
course.
father, ended up taking his life. Okay. Very, very painful. He wasn't in a physical jail. He was in a mental jail. So it was that sort of pain that drove me and continues to drive me to this day, where I found my purpose. Yeah. And so inside a business, I'm able to coach people at a level that a lot of people can't do, because the truth is I was coaching my father, who we didn't know it at the time, but he was struggling with mental illness. I was coaching him since I was a little kid, so like coaching salespeople was like easy for me. Like I'm just coaching my father, right? And a lot of salespeople struggle with addiction and they've got different problems. So for me, it became a purpose. But you bring up such a great point about purpose. And I would recommend to somebody, and there are schools of thought, you don't need to love your product, just find something that the market's hot, right? But I do believe that there's that extra special it factor, that synergistic energy, that when you're involved in something that you believe in and you're aligned with that purpose, that God, higher power, whatever you want to call that, when you're in alignment with that, I think it goes a lot better. And that's a really great point.
Well, what
really
it came down to is that I seen how my family got robbed of a life of abundance because of the scarcity that my father put onto the family because of his bad habits and not providing for them because he's being selfish with his addiction and always chasing that.
Yep.
And so I seen how it affected my sister. I have 3 sisters, 22, 9, and 5, right?
Wow.
So the 22-year-old sister, I mean, we're not going to get into it crazy, but she has her own issues that she deals with because of a lack of a father figure.
Right.
And so, I'm explaining this to him, like, listen, you robbed the family of so many things due to your own selfish behaviors that now it puts me in a position where if I don't be a certain figure for these girls, the other 2 are going to also grow up with certain issues.
Right.
So they need to have an idol to look up to and a man figure to validate them, how smart and beautiful and amazing they are. Otherwise, they're going to look for it elsewhere.
That's right.
Exactly.
And look at the perfection of the universe, though. There's always that perfection because so many people, this gets into a thing that a lot of people who do have a troubled past, they identify with the story of the troubled past. And that keeps people freaking stuck. You got to shift your identity into your purpose, which you're doing, and into what God has for you. When your identity comes from that, and you shift your identity out of the story into who you're becoming, it is a freaking superpower, a complete superpower.
It really is.
And somebody like you'll be able to help your dad, but you got to also understand one of the hardest lessons I ever learned in my life was with my father, that you cannot crave for another human being. And that's hard. You cannot, my father came up hard. A big abandonment story, right? His mother died at birth. Father was an immigrant and wasn't around for him. And so he couldn't lick his trauma. He couldn't deal with it. And in his generation, today he would have been in his 80s. They didn't do therapy and coaching, and men didn't, feel their feelings, and they didn't do that.
Right.
So your dad, he might bury that trauma, but I can promise you trauma is in his nervous system. That's what's causing the behavior.
Yeah.
So if you can see through the hurts and the wounds that he's done, and you can see the perfection of it for how it's influenced your whole life. And so your sisters might get caught up in the story, we didn't have a father, but look at the role model they have in you, right? So it's always important. Tony Robbins says, if you're gonna blame them for your trauma, blame them for your success. But most people don't see both sides. They only see one side. So that's awesome.
Just talked about that too. You were just saying his father is an incredible salesman.
Oh my God. He's the best salesman I've ever met in my life.
So it's like...
No, like actually, And I'm like, if you just used all this energy that you put everywhere else and you just put it to one goal, you could take over the world.
That I noticed that pattern when I was very young, that some of the top sort of guys who rise in the mafia, they're all great salesmen. They're all great business people. They're all great entrepreneurs. All the ones who were around us were the most charismatic, so it's a thing, but the universe responds to life, and this is a huge lesson for everybody. When you do things that bring more life, you get karma point. I call it karmic points. It's like depositing into a bank account. If it brings more life, if it depletes from life, you get karmic debt. It goes the other way, right? It's going against you. So if you can do things that bring more life, whether the product brings more life or whether you bring more life to people, you're aligning with the forces of the universe. You're aligning with spiritual principles instead of fighting against them. And I think people who are criminally minded, as I was brought up that way. My first job I wanted to be in the mafia. Like those were the people I was around. But I think people like that are just people who have trauma, who are highly resistant, and they're resisting universal principles. When the universe clearly is formed in love, okay? What's going on in the universe is hatred, but the raw ingredients of the universe, if you look at nature, it's built from love. And if you align with that, I'm not talking February 14th love. I'm talking your purpose, your mission, bringing life to people, compassion. These things are so absent in society. If you become that as a leader, people know you care. I think it was maybe, I don't know, I forget. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I don't know who said it. But the point is, if you care about people like that and you're past your own issues, you're not worried about somebody screwing you over. I don't ever think about anybody screwing me. I really don't care. I don't think about it, because if it happened, my strategy is going to be exactly the same. I'm going to go to the mirror, I'm going to look in the mirror, and I'm going to say, Mark, where have you betrayed yourself? I'm not going to blame the other person. I'm going to understand it was life showing up for me. It was on the way, not in the way, and it's bringing me to a greater destiny. And I understand that, so I don't waste any energy on that. I focus all my energy on bringing more life. That's why I do, you'll see me coaching people, pro bono. I do it a lot, I don't even talk about it, but I do it. If somebody's, somebody's suicidal or something like this, I talk to a lot of people, and I just make those deposits, bring in more life, more life, more life. And then this real estate deal comes through and it's worth millions of dollars, and nobody can figure out how I got that. I promise you, I'm not that smart. I'm not Donald Trump smart with real estate. I'm not. But I just believe what you put out is what's going to come back. So I'm always bringing out more life.
All connected, always.
It's all connected, yeah.
We've had so many deep conversations about this kind of stuff, and it's like, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in whatever it is,
yep.
It's a universe, or it's a being, or it's something that it just connects it all. Yep. And once you believe that, and it's the truth, once you understand that, you understand why certain people can never get ahead in life. You understand why some people get everything they want in life.
Yep.
It's because of that. You have to live congruent to your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions, and you do the things that the universe is good for the universe, and magically things happen to you.
It happens.
And it's like, you don't even try.
Yep.
That's like the saying they have, the more you take, the less you have. The more you give, the more you have.
Yes.
Right.
And it's because it's like a snowball effect. If you just are always outwardly giving love and abundance and as much advice and helpfulness as possible to everyone around you, you're literally empowering people.
That's right.
And helping people.
Bringing life.
And how is the universe not going to give you back something positive?
I have a guy I'm coaching right now, and he's struggling a bit, and he came up with a lot of trauma, a lot of really, really bad things that he went through. But the biggest thing I'm coaching him on is a higher power, because he had no spirituality. He had no belief in. I asked him, do you believe in God? Do you believe? Like, you'll find most successful people have a belief in a higher power.
100%.
100%.
I've seen it so much lately.
Yep. They all have a belief in a higher power. Is it real? I don't freaking know, but I do know this. Wealthy people have a belief in a higher power. Maybe it's fake and they're faking themselves out. We get to the other side and we're like, ah, shit, I was wrong. But at the end of the day, I've noticed that pattern. And so I was brought up Catholic, so I was always fighting against, the church, and my mother was trying to drag us into church, and my father was more kind of mafia minded, and my mother was spiritual. And so I was kind of always fighting against that, but I did adopt the idea of God. I adopted that very young, and I believe it's a real thing.
Yeah, but this goes back to our coaching, right? When I was still in the early stages of growing this company, you were coaching me. I said, Mark, I'm struggling. I'm having income issues. I'm sitting with all these people. None of my deals are closing. What should I do? And you said, listen, you need to regulate your energy and your vibration by doing breathing exercises, and have faith in your higher power. Whoever it is that you do believe in, have faith. And so I took your advice on the breathing exercises to help improve my energy and have higher, faith in my higher power. Within 10 days, I generated like 70,000 in net profit.
And I think there was another piece to that too, which I teach. It's kind of like, Alexis is the relentless pursuit of perfection, but we never get under the hood to see what it is.
Yo, what's crazy too is, remember you came to me and I start telling him all the shit you got to say in the house, and you got to do this, you got to do that.
The technique.
Yeah. And he goes to you. And
within like 2 days.
Yeah.
Within a 2-day period.
So what we shifted was, I told you got to serve, solve, sell. Serve is find people's needs. When you're selling, it's not about you, it's about them. So that's a tricky, sort of dichotomy to work through when you're coming from scarcity and you need money and you got bills to pay. That can be very difficult. But once you learn how to do that, get yourself out of the way, serve. That is first and foremost. Going in, figuring out if you can help them, figuring out if there's a problem, figuring out if there's a problem, if they want to deal with you. Maybe they understand they have a problem, but for some reason they don't want to deal with you. So serving, when you go in there and serve and then you solve, and you're really, really good at explaining how you can solve their problem, then you sell, you enroll them into your offer, right? And when you do it in that order, when you do it like that, and that's your core fundamental philosophy, it's no longer about doing things to people, it's doing things for people. And you understand that if I do something to you, I'm doing that to me. If I slight you, I've slighted myself. If I do good by you, I've done good by myself. You start to understand that universal principle. And I remember when we did the coaching, I was working on getting you aligned, and boom, just every freaking time. I've got hundreds of stories at this point. I'm waiting for Fitzy to text me because I coached him yesterday. I said, call me when you get the miracle. But it's just, he comes in, I do the chiropractic adjustment, crack him here, get it all straight. He's like, oh my God, Mark, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
It was just the combination, the perfect blend of outward and inward work that I just put together in a 2-day period, and that's what took it to the
Yep. So it shows you outer game is very important. You got to be able to say the right things. But what's more important to me, when I see sales training that says, do it just like this, I just don't think everybody can do it the same way. I can't tone out the way you do. I talk with my freaking hands. This is where I come from. It's who I am, right? And other people do it different. So I think you got to be who you are. And what's more important than what you say, although I think what you say is incredibly important, it's who you're being when you say what you say. So if you're being in service, if you're being in solving, when you say what you say, it's going to have more impact than if you just say the right thing the same way that some trainer told you to say it. So that's my take on it. Let's see if I get beat up on social media.
No, I like that.
Who's this guy?
You got me thinking over here while you're
bullshit.
talking.
Thinking about it
Well,
while you're
before
saying
you
it.
say that's bullshit, we got $250 million in sales in the last 5 years. So think twice before you say that.
Yeah, and you've coached hundreds of people, including me. That we've done 100 million in sales. So add that to the list.
Yeah. Literally, it's thousands of sessions I've done at this point.
Yeah.
It's in the thousands.
Yeah. All right.
Well, can you tell us about your sessions with Andrew Kane?
Oh God! Don't start this. We got another 3-hour podcast for that one. All right. So I got 2 more questions for you. Number 1, I got to have a little fun with you. Our famous question has been business bankrupt bubble bath. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I didn't see that one.
So you obviously are a sales trainer. You learned in the little more old school era of the older guys, not the new modern guys today. So I'm going to give you 3 names of people, and you have to say who would you go into business with, who would you take a bubble bath with, and who would you bankrupt.
So
okay?
I got to go bubble baths with somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You know the game Fuck, Marry, Kill? You
What's
ever play
that?
that? Did you ever play the game Fuck, Marry, Kill when you were younger?
No.
All right, we won't get into that.
Yeah.
But anyway, business, bankrupt, bubble bath.
So who would I go in business with? I got to take a bubble bath, and I got to bankrupt somebody.
Correct. It could be a big bubble bath. So you guys could be like,
Okay.
he could be over there.
Cool.
And you're over here.
Cool.
All right. So we got Tony Robbins.
Yep.
We got Zig Ziglar.
Yep.
And we got Brian Tracy.
Oh, shit. I love them all,
So
man.
those
That's
are the
such a
3
tough one.
Yeah.
So Tony Robbins, I'm business partners with him.
Okay.
Immediately, I can tell you that. I love him. And he had such an impact on my life, and I've never even met him.
Okay.
And a very close friend of mine speaks on his stages, and I never, sort of ask for, the favor or any of that. I know one day I'll meet him organically. So now we got Brian Tracy and Zig. Oh my God. How do I
And
think?
we'll give you a benefit of the doubt. This is a fixed answer. There is no wrong or right. Just because you bankrupt someone doesn't mean you hate them.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm gonna bankrupt Brian Tracy.
Okay.
And the reason I'm gonna do that is because he is a genius, but he's just mechanical, man. And he doesn't have the high level of emotion that I like. He's dry. So we're bankrupting him. And then we're bubble bathing with Zig.
You and Zig in the bath, baby.
Yeah. Zig's a Christian, so I know he ain't gonna grab my leg weird. Or God rest his soul, but I love the guy. He was amazing.
Got it.
I could bubble bath with him with a cigar. And
There you go.
Get some wisdom.
There you go.
Yeah.
Listen, the Tony Robbins thing, I feel like he's the OG of the entire game.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
He started this whole movement of everything.
Yes, he did.
You know?
Yep.
My father listened to him 40 years ago when he got in car sales. It's like
He changed my life. I mean, I never met him, but at the time, his sales team was going around, and they used to do that. So we started going to the seminars. But after coming out of the background I came out of, I never read books. I got made fun of for reading, and I used to be, as a kid, I liked to read, but I would get made fun of for that. So I literally stopped reading. The very next book I read was at 19 years old. I'm in a bookstore, and Awaken the Giant. It wasn't that one yet. That one didn't come out yet. Came out right after it. It was Unlimited Power. And it popped off the bookshelf. I'd never seen this guy, and I had this off the bookshelf experience. I got the book, and I'm telling you, I saw possibility for my life for the first time. And it was that book that helped me see that possibility.
Wow.
And then from there, it was going to his events, and then Awaken the Giant Within, and learning more and more, and going down these rabbit holes. So I'm so grateful to him for saying yes to himself and his purpose. Had he not, would have maybe been a little different. So.
All right, last question we always ask everyone. We asked you it last time, and I don't remember your answer, unfortunately, but we'll see if it's the same or not. One message to the world. If you have one thing to say, what's your final message?
So would have to do with healing and compassion. I believe that we are living in a world, even in this social media, realm, and a lot of these sales trainers and everything is hard. It's about being tough and hard. And I am all about mental toughness. Came up playing hockey, came up fighting, didn't want to fight, but had to fight, and this sort of thing. And I just think there's just very little compassion on the planet. And I hear all too often people will be like, oh, that guy's a piece of shit. Do you know what shoes that guy walked through? Do you know what he's been through? Like, do you know if he was abused? Like, do you know more about it? I'm just not so quick to write people off as pieces of shit. I look at people as sort of God's children, and I look at my mission and my purpose to uplift them. I'm not saying that if somebody did something really bad to me or my family, I wouldn't struggle with that at that moment. I probably would, but at the end of the day, I would get to the place of compassion, because that's what's needed on this planet. If you look at the state of affairs on the planet, I think there are evil forces behind the scenes that are orchestrating things, making things way more difficult for us. And so my ultimate message to people is don't get faked out by that. How we deal with that is by raising our vibration, not lowering it. So if somebody screws you over, you need to understand something. You screwed yourself over. There's no way you can get screwed over by another human being if you haven't screwed yourself over first. You don't get betrayed if you didn't self-betray, okay? Give you a prime example of that. When I was a kid, I was a writer at a very young age. I started writing things down, and I was creative. But in my environment, that was not safe. I was a coach. I could counsel. I could do this stuff really young. But in my environment, you weren't doing that. In my environment, you had to fight. You had to put them up and swing. My father was an athlete, heavy bag in the basement. He was teaching us to fight, teaching us to box, had me in hockey, right? Those were all great things, and I learned a ton of things from it. But isn't it interesting? In order to become that fighter, I had to betray a part of myself. What part of myself did I betray? The core part of myself, the mission, the purpose of who I am, what God had for me. I had to betray that. So guess what? I used to attract situations where there would be betrayal. I don't have betrayal in my life anymore. It doesn't exist. I'd have to look for it to find it. Why? Because I said yes to who I really am. And who am I really? I consider myself a wealth healer. A healer, help energy align with love. Wealth is a condition of being whole, bringing people back to wholeness. Well, what fragments people? Trauma. A piece of you was over there, a piece of you was over here. When I was a kid, we never had ADD. Like people can't focus. Like what is this shit, right? We didn't have that when I was a kid. Now there are, reasons for it, the food and this and that. But ultimately it's because people are fragmented. They got parts of themselves that are wounded all over the place, and then they can't focus, right? And social media, scrolling and all this stuff, right? It hurts your ability to focus. So I consider myself a wealth healer. That's what I do. And I bring people back together to a state of wholeness where they start to see their greatness. They start to see who they are in the eyes of God, not in their in the identity that they made from what happened to them. That's not who they are. That's what happened to them. So my message is just about becoming whole, and that's what I help people do. I help them heal the past. I help them live powerfully in the present moment, and we do that through skills, right? Teaching them new skills, teaching them how to set goals, teaching them how to sell, teaching them, how to run business, whatever the skill set is, and then we shape a future, a destiny. Who do you want to become, right? You want to become wealthy financially? You want to leave a legacy of health? Like, who is it you want to become? So we heal the past, we focus on the present, and we shape the future. And that's really what my coaching, that's what it's all about, and that's what I do. So I'd like to see more compassion in the world. I'd like to see less people out there judging, this one's a piece of shit. I'd like to see people look in the freaking mirror. That's what I'd like to see people do. Look in the mirror. Instead of what somebody did to you, look at what you did to yourself and look at how you attracted that situation and scenario in your life so that you can be a beneficial presence on this planet. Because if we're living in victim consciousness, it's not a beneficial presence. It's not leading to more life. Living in victim consciousness leads to more death. You see what I'm saying?
What
hopefully that answers that.
Ending. Yeah. Holy shit. Thank you, Mark, for coming on the podcast. Again, that was incredible.
Awesome.
And thanks, Abe, for filling in.
Thank you, Abe.
First time back on.
Tony, we miss you, brother, but I love Abe too.
Hope you think I did a good job, Tony.
Sweet.
This week on Two Dudes, Three Legs.